All right, so get this right. We're diving into Novaterra today, and they are dealing with a huge energy crisis, like the kind that keeps you up at night.
Yeah, picture this. A storm so bad, it basically shut down an entire country. Technologically advanced, too. Everything. Down.
Hospitals, water, the works. It's like something out of a movie, except it's really happening.
And you're in charge of fixing it. That's where our deep dive comes in today. We've got reports, data, even some passionate pleas from Novaterrans themselves.
It's one thing to talk about this stuff theoretically, but these decisions have real weight to them. Lives are on the line.
It really shows you how fragile even the most, cutting-edge systems can be, you know? Novaterra is a warning, but also maybe a testing ground for how we deal with this kind of thing.
Okay, so before we get all solutions-oriented, what's the situation on the ground? What are the big things they've got to juggle?
Well, first things first.
Yeah.
People need power, like now, not tomorrow, not next week. Hospitals are running on generators. Businesses are shut down. It's a mess.
So urgency is key. What else?
Then you got the economic side of things. This hurricane, it didn't just knock out the lights, it blew a hole in their budget. Rebuilding is going to be insanely expensive.
And I'm guessing every decision impacts that, right?
Big time. Like, going for the cheapest fix now might backfire in the long run, cost them even more.
Makes sense. And then there's the whole environmental aspect. Novaterra was, leading the charge on going green, right?
Yeah, right. They were all about that. But this disaster, it kind of throws a wrench in the works, doesn't it? Do they compromise their values just to get the lights back on, even if it means more fossil fuels?
It's easy to say go green when you're not the one in the dark. So first option, and tell me if I'm being too simplistic here, but couldn't they just, flip the switch back on the old ways? Fossil fuels, get things running again.
It's tempting, right? They've got coal and gas reserves they could tap into pretty quickly, relatively speaking.
So speed is on their side there. But I'm guessing there's a downside. There always is.
Well, yeah, Novaterra built its reputation on being green pioneers. They pushed for global change, invested a ton in renewables.
And now they're considering hitting the undo button. I bet that's not going over well on the international stage.
Not well at all. Think about it. Trade disputes, maybe even sanctions, who knows? Their economy's built on this image of being eco-friendly.
Yeah, not a good look to suddenly become the bad guys. And what about the environmental impact itself?
Huge. More emissions, pollution, and ironically, they'd be contributing to the very problem that probably caused this superstorm in the first place.
Oof, that's rough. It's like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Speaking of, what about option 2, doubling down on renewables? They've already started. Can't they just, do more of that?
It's not quite that simple. See, they've got some solar and wind, sure, but their whole system is built on this centralized grid.
And that's, let's say, indisposed at the moment, thanks to the hurricane. Exactly. So they'd be starting from scratch almost. Even with, super fast construction, it'd take years to get a fully renewable grid up and running.
And all that time, people are in the dark. Tough sell. So what does that leave them with? Is there even another option?
There's one more, yeah. It's the clean but controversial one, nuclear power.
Okay, let's unpack that. Nuclear, huh? Always a hot topic.
Yeah.
Nuclear power. Yeah, that's not a light bulb moment. That's a whole power plant decision, right?
Right. It's a huge deal, fraught with, everything. For starters, they don't actually have any nuclear plants up and running themselves.
Wait, so this would mean getting it from somewhere else, importing power.
Yep. Some of their neighbors, they're pretty advanced when it comes to nuclear. See it as a chance to, become the energy suppliers of the region.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. Strings attached.
Always. Novaterra's got to weigh quick energy against potentially being beholden to another country for it.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch or a free watt of electricity, I guess. But let's talk about the big one, the thing everyone thinks about with nuclear safety. And waste.
Public opinion is all over the place on this one. Those old disasters, Chernobyl, Fukushima, that's hard to shake, even if the tech is different now.
Yeah, those images stick with you. And the waste thing, that's like trying to get rid of something that never really goes away.
Exactly. Storage is expensive, controversial, always a risk, however small, of accidents. Novaterra's got to figure out if it's worth it.
So we've hit the downsides pretty hard. What's the pro-nuclear argument? Why is it even on the table?
Because when it works, it really works. Modern plants, they've got incredible safety records. And the tech has come a long way. Efficiency is way up.
So not your grandma's nuclear reactor anymore.
Not even close. Plus, and this is a big one, after the hurricane, it's reliable, Sun's not shining, wind's not blowing. Doesn't matter if you've got a nuke plant humming along.
Okay, so reliable, cleaner than its reputation, at least on paper, but still a gamble, right?
Yeah.
Like the worst case scenario is really bad.
No getting around that. And it's not just accidents. There's the whole, what if this tech gets used for other things, like weapons, question looming in the background.
So many layers to this. Okay, before we get totally overwhelmed, I'm curious. What do the people of Novaterra think? Are they leaning one way or another on this?
That's what their government's got to figure out. Because if the people are dead set against something, it's going to be a tough sell no matter what.
Right, you can't force people to accept this stuff. They've got to live with it. So what's the vibe?
It's a mix. People are scared, understandably. Businesses are hurting. There's this real sense of just get the lights back on. We'll figure the rest out later.
So short-term thinking because it's an emergency.
Kinda. But I also think there's a realization that the perfect solution, like all renewables all the time, it's just not realistic yet. They need a bridge to get there.
A bridge. Interesting way to put it. So are they pro-nuclear as that bridge?
Can't say that for sure. Every option has downsides. Public opinion, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Sure, but a big piece. If Novaterra tears itself apart over this, it doesn't matter if the lights are on, right?
Exactly. Which is why this next bit is key. What happens on the world stage depending on their choice?
Okay, let's play that out. Fossil fuels first. They go that route, what happens?
Novaterra is not some tiny country. They're leaders, at least when it came to the environment.
They were like the poster child for going green, weren't they?
Exactly. International agreements, pushing for big emissions cuts, even putting their money where their mouth is with those carbon tariffs.
So, yeah, going back to coal and oil, that's not a good look.
Understatement. Think trade wars, sanctions, even just regular people choosing not to buy their stuff anymore.
Their whole economy is built on being good, though.
Yeah.
This could wreck them long term.
It's a real possibility. All right, so nuclear fallout, so to speak. What happens if they go that route?
This is going to get messy, isn't it? Nuclear is such a loaded topic.
Total minefield. You've got some countries that are all about nuclear, see it as the solution, especially if they want to ditch fossil fuels too.
Clean energy, even if the process to get there isn't.
Right. But then you've got others who are totally against it. Safety, waste, the whole, what if they make bombs? Fear.
So Novaterra picks a side. They risk making enemies out of the other.
International Relations 101, unfortunately. And then there's how their own people feel. We talked about it being divided.
Yeah. Some just want the lights on. Others are thinking generations down the line.
Imagine the protests if they bring in nuclear. Court cases. It could get ugly.
So much more complicated than just buy some energy from our neighbor. Okay, so we've covered the fallout, if they go back to the old ways or if they go nuclear. What about renewables? Surely everyone's happy if they go full green.
You'd think so, right? I mean, it plays right into their image, makes the folks back home happy, positions them as, like, the good guys in all this.
Laid on me, what's the catch?
Even with good intentions, things can go sideways.
Ah, yes. The law of unintended consequences. Hit me.
Think about those fossil fuel jobs.
Yeah.
Gone if they go all in on renewables.
True. You can't just tell people to learn how to install solar panels and call it a day.
And those people out of work, hurting.
Mmm.
That's instability right there.
It's like every decision sends out ripples.
And Novaterra's leaders, they're the epicenter of that. They got to think 10 moves ahead. You know?
More like 100 moves ahead. It's a chess game where the whole world is watching.
And learning. Don't forget that part. We're going to unpack that more as we go deeper into this.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
But before we move on, can we just acknowledge, like, the scope of this, it's way bigger than just Novaterra.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just about keeping one country running. It's about everything.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me why this matters so much in the grand scheme of things.
The world is watching how they handle this. Whatever they do, other countries are going to be looking at it when they face tough choices.
So they're under pressure to be the, like, example to follow.
Right. If they can make this work and come out the other side with a good system, it shows it can be done.
They'd be the renewable energy success story everyone points to.
Exactly. But if they mess it up, short-term thinking, bad choices, that could scare other countries off from doing the right thing.
So no pressure, Novaterra, but seriously, this is huge. Not just for them, for all of us.
No doubt about it. Makes you think about the choices WE make, right? Even if it's just how much electricity we use.
100%. Okay, so we've got the lay of the land, the options, what could go wrong. Time to put on our advisor hats and get to work. Okay, so, like, the pressure is on. If we're really advising Novaterra here, where do we even start?
I think the first thing is admitting there's no perfect answer. Everything's got a downside. But they have to think long-term here,
So no quick fixes, even though that's like what everyone's screaming for right now.
especially because of that. This isn't just about turning the lights back on. It's about rebuilding the right way, and the whole world is looking at them to do that.
Okay, yeah, we talked about that. So let's game it out. Fossil fuels first. What do they actually DO if they go that way?
Damage control, basically. Get ahead of the backlash. They need, like, a whole diplomatic team smoothing things over with other countries.
I can see the headlines now. Novaterra goes green, then goes back to black.
And that's just the international stuff. Imagine trying to convince their own people this is the right move
Yeah.
after, like, years of saying the opposite.
Yeah, good luck spinning that one. Okay, nuclear. If they go down that path, what's the first move?
Honesty. Full transparency with their citizens. Lay out the risks, but also what they're doing to mitigate them.
So no sneaking around and trying to make it a done deal before people notice.
No way. Show them how these new plants work, the safety features, the waste disposal.
Prove it's not some, like, Chernobyl waiting to happen.
Exactly. And while they're doing that, they better be hammering out those import agreements, because they need that energy, like yesterday.
Right, secure the juice, but also the waste isn't going away, literally.
Nope. They need somewhere to put that stuff, and safely. Maybe even look into those new technologies for, like, processing it or whatever.
So nuclear, it's a whole thing. Okay, last option on the table. Full speed ahead on renewables. What's the move there?
Move fast. Like, throw everything they've got at it. It's construction on a crazy scale.
So permits, funding, the whole 9 yards all happening at once.
And reach out to other countries who've done this.
Yeah.
No need to reinvent the wheel.
Steal like an energy innovator, right? Share tech, ideas.
Exactly. This is bigger than just Novaterra. It's showing the world what's possible.
It's a nice thought, but realistically, can they do it? Rebuild an entire energy system while they're in crisis mode?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
We can analyze this all day, but nobody knows for sure. But everyone's going to be watching to see what happens.
Because at the end of the day, this is about people, right? It's about how we adapt when things go wrong and the choices we make for the future.
And those choices, they matter. For Novaterra, sure,
Right.
but for everyone, it's all connected.
Well said. Well, folks, I think we've done our deep dive on this one. What a story, right? Makes you think.
Makes you realize we take a lot for granted, like flipping a switch and the lights just working.
100%. But also, it shows you what we can overcome if we put our minds to it.
As long as we make the right choices.
And on that note, that's a wrap on today's deep dive. Stay curious out there. And until next time, keep asking the tough questions.